Good morning. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to First Parish in Concord. It is a beautiful October day. We are so lucky to be creatures living on this planet. I want to welcome you if you're joining from home through our live stream or watching us later on Zoom. We're glad that you joined us for church this morning. To all of you who are here in person, it's wonderful to be in the same room with you and to be able to think together and hold silence together, pray together, and sing together. Welcome to church this morning. Our children are over at the community garden, and they are helping clean it up for the fall. So that's a little bit of a project for them, a way to give back to the earth and to be better connected with where their food comes from. So that's where they're this morning. Any children who are here in the sanctuary, we're glad you're here. Enjoy the service. I promise the sermon won't be too boring, and we're glad that you're here with your families. Lori Gil-Pizaris is our Zoom chat host today. Lori, thank you so much for taking care of things in Zoom land. Lori will be active in the chat, and she'll be cutting and pasting things in there and answering any questions that you may have if you're watching the live stream. We do our best to have accessibility here. There are headphones in the back. If you're having any trouble hearing during the service, you can wear those. They work very well. There is an elevator just through this door to my right, and all of the restrooms have accessible stalls. We are glad that you are here this morning. We are grateful to all of you for taking care of this community. Just a few little reminders to keep us all safer. Masks must be worn inside the building, and also social distance, please. Our worship leaders, choir, and teachers are all vaccinated. We strongly encourage vaccination for everyone who is medically able, as this is how we are able to care for ourselves and one another. To sing or not sing is your choice. The choir will sing one anthem, and the congregation will sing the closing hymn. We would like to remind you to stay home if you are not feeling well, even if you think it is just a cold. If you or a family member has tested positive for COVID, please call or email a member of the church staff. If there's been a COVID exposure at church, we will let the congregation know. Together, we covenant to reduce the risk of COVID by each doing our part. Our call to worship this morning are words by William Henry Channing. He says, "To live content with small means, to seek elegance rather than luxury, and refinement rather than fashion, to be worthy, not respectable, and wealthy, not rich, to study hard, think quietly, talk gently, act frankly, to listen to stars and birds, to babes and sages with open heart, to bear all cheerfully, to do all bravely, await occasions, hurry never, to let the spiritual unbidden and unconscious grow up through the common. This is to be my symphony." Let us worship together. Each week when we gather, we light a flaming chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. For us, it is the flame of truth and knowledge. It is a beacon of hope, of joy, of peace, and of love. And we light it with these words. They are printed in your order of service or will appear in the chat or on a slide online. Please join me in the unison response. O flame of our faith, open our hearts and fill our bodies and souls with persistent strength. Enliven our spirits and engage us deeply in this life of ours, this sacred, essential moment now. Let us enjoy some centering music. Thank you for the lovely music, Eric. Our first reading today is a poem by Bill Holm, the title of which is Silence in North Dakota. On the lip of the Killdeer Canyon, 500 feet over the Tan Buttes that flank the Little Missouri, in the middle of North Dakota, in the middle of North America, in the middle of the Western Hemisphere, on tax day in the middle of April, at almost the end of the second millennium, the universe held its breath for a full minute. Complete, inviolate silence. Not a crow cawed, not a frog croaked. The wind shut its mouth. The cars and tractors stopped. The TVs all went dead. Words failed for no good reason. Clouds scudded but kept quiet about it. And everything alive, or what is sometimes called not alive, listened to everything else. Stones, motors, crocuses, blood pulsing. And then the crow cawed. That seemed to be the signal. And the universe exhaled. And everything started again. But for that minute, we heard what it was really like. I invite you to turn in the back of the hymnal to responsive reading number 662. We'll read this together. These are words by A. Powell Davies, long the minister at All Souls in Washington, D.C. This is his reading, Strange and Foolish Walls, number 662. I will read the plain type, and you all can read along with Beth on the italicized. The years of all of us are short, our lives precarious.
Our days and nights go hurrying on, and there is scarcely time to do the little that we might.
Yet we find time for bitterness, for petty treason and evasion.
What can we do to stretch our hearts enough to lose their littleness?
Here we are, all of us, all upon this planet, bound together in a common destiny.
Living our lives between the briefness of the daylight and the dark.
Kindred in this, each lighted by the same precarious flickering flame of life. How does it happen that we are not kindred in all things else?
How strange and foolish are these walls of separation that divide us.
I invite you to settle in for the sermon. I am never happier than when I have an international plane ticket in my hand. Mexico, Romania, England, almost anywhere. The chance to leave my life in the United States for a bit is one of the greatest pleasures I know. If you are like me, the anticipation of the trip is almost as pleasurable as the trip itself. The months of thinking about it, the careful selection of hotels, figuring out how to get from place to place wherever I'm going, inviting someone along, someone who will actually enjoy it as much as I am. The mountain of work before the trip and the mountain of work after the trip are always worth the time away. I am never happier than when I have an international plane ticket in my hand, and it has been a long time. COVID-19 brought the whole world to an almost complete stop. I know it might be hard to remember, but the images of overrun hospitals in Italy are still fresh for me. People singing to one another from their balconies to fight the isolation. I took a driving trip early in the pandemic and had the once clogged freeways almost to myself. The roads looked like something out of the start of a zombie movie. And remember the refrigerator trucks parked in Manhattan to serve as temporary morgues? That was something. That first terrible spring, we went to the grocery store infrequently or had our groceries delivered, and then we washed them or let them sit on the porch overnight. I spent day after day working from home, quite aware that some people did not have the luxury of that level of safety. We each did our best. We each managed somehow. We all lost people that we loved. And we all slowed down some because we were forced to slow down. Do you remember last winter? Last winter, when we were all in the same boat, none of us was vaccinated. All of us were frightened and cautious. No one expected too much of other people. No one expected too much of themselves. Well, that is all fading into the background now. We who live in a capitalist society are back at it again. But now we are unhappy because the stuff we order online takes longer to get to our doors than it used to. Why do we never learn? Global capitalism can only function through exploitation, leaving no room for nurture, for care, says O'Neill Van Horn, a theology student at Drew University. He continues, this is because the system is undergirded by a shared logic, rendering both people and the planet as commodities to be consumed in the forms of labor and natural resources. Though COVID-19 doesn't care if a person is rich or poor, capitalism does. Capitalism equates wealth with merit. Ask anyone who has worked hard for years whether they deserve the money they have earned, and they will tell you yes. Heck, I'd tell you yes. In America, our individual net worth defines us. The degree to which we have options directly correlates to how much money we have in the bank. That is why so many of us felt inconvenienced by the pandemic, but we did not feel gutted by it. We could order our groceries online. Our mortgage payments were not in jeopardy. We could do without the stimulus checks, many of us. We were first in line for the vaccines. We could make choices about where we went and with whom. We didn't like the global slowdown, but we could live with it. Listen to a little more of what Van Horn has to say, and let's all try not to feel guilty. What he is saying is true, but it need not injure us. Some have suggested that humans themselves are the problem. In fact, elitism and exploitation constitute the cause. The wealthiest few are the most responsible. Neither climate change nor the current pandemic happened by chance. Both are the result of denial, of a refusal to believe scientists, of a prioritization of wealth for a few as opposed to the wellness of many. In both cases, people least responsible Poor folks, communities of color, the unhoused, the incarcerated bear the brunt of the burden. There's an interesting phenomenon that happens to those of us in the comfortable but not rich category of American society. Sustainable modes of living for those with the privilege and resource to enact them are often not pleasurable. In other words, we who are in a position to live in a sustainable way do not often like doing so. Mostly, sustainability for us feels like deprivation. Sustainability feels like COVID lockdown. It feels like poverty. And that is why our social justice movements can sometimes be so joyless. Think about the last meeting you were in about climate change. Was there joy in the room? Think about the last conversation you had about immigration. Was there abundant hope expressed? Think about the last article you read about homelessness. Was there excitement about progress? Probably not. As queer ecologist Catriona Sandialis puts it, it is not only that abundant pleasure is virtually absent in most ecological discourse, but that it is often understood as downright opposed to ecological principles. We with resources are so frightened by the possibility of losing those resources that we forget to take pleasure in the progress that has been made. We forget to be excited. We forget to express hope. In working with poorer people and with people of color, one of the things that most bewilders activists like us is how joy is always present in the room. No matter how dire the circumstances, someone will always have a song. Someone will always have cookies to share. Someone will always tell you they are blessed when you ask. Someone will always share a cigarette. Someone will always loan a $10 bill. Someone will always offer a prayer. Someone will always talk about things getting better. By comparison, the grim seriousness of our meetings would put off all but the most devoted. The difference is, we are not forced to live sustainably. We are not forced to live with less. We have options. And because we have options, we decide when we will be serious and when we will relax. We have our activist work and we have our vacations. We compartmentalize our lives in ways that other communities never even think of doing. And then we wonder why we sometimes feel like tourists everywhere but home. I started by saying that I am never happier than when I have an international plane ticket in my hand. But I did not confess to you the most compelling reason such a ticket gives me pleasure. A trip is a chance to escape from my life. It is a chance to leave all this behind for a while. A trip holds the promise of days in which I don't need to be responsible for the seriousness of my life. An international plane ticket buys me a freedom I could never feel at home. It will be very strange to get on a plane again the next time I do. I know some of you have been flying, but I have not been on an airplane since February 2020. I wonder, how will I have changed? I wonder, who will step off into that other country, for it surely won't be the me of 2 years ago. The global slowdown has changed me. It has made me more aware of how the whole world is connected. It has made me more aware of how some people have lots of choices and others have almost none. I will travel again, but I will never take the trips for granted. I will never again see them as something that I deserve. And wouldn't it be nice to not to want to escape my own life so much? My guess is that you and I don't think of ourselves as rich. We aren't rich by Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk standards, but most of us are rich enough to have choices that other people don't have. Most of us are rich enough to be shielded from the worst of life. We have options, we have a safety net, we come and go as we like. But because most of us are rich and not rich at the same time, we have the hardest time empathizing with those who are less well off. We forget too many of us are also 1 or 2 paychecks away from serious financial trouble. We deny that all of us are in the same boat when it comes to one major illness away from seeing our lives radically change. We pretend we aren't dependent on the whims of the stock market for our security. The threat of poverty and illness makes us want more and more money because more and more money is simply more and more security. So how do we turn our gaze away from the Jeff Bezos of the world? How do we stop admiring the Elon Musks of the world? How do we see people all around us with whom we might have actual solidarity? There is only one way to do this. Give money away. Give time away. Tithe. The only way to be in solidarity with people is to share something with them. We must give up things if we are ever to be of use to the rest of the world. Slowing down presents new opportunities to seek pleasure in smaller, simpler ways: mending, baking, writing, storytelling, creating, listening. What if we didn't rush back into a world that is rapidly opening? What if we tried to find pleasure in sustainable living? What if we made more careful choices? We have all learned how to get through a global pandemic. We've all been in a 19-month training course on how to survive. Let's put that training to some good use. How different the world might be if we could maintain the little pleasures we found during lockdown. How different the world might be if we could really think about our purchases. How different the world might be if we could simply do less for ourselves and for the life of the planet. So be it. Amen. I invite you to contemplate a question. Feel free to talk to the folks that are near you or scoot just a little bit closer to someone to have a brief conversation on this question. Where do you find joy in a slower life? Where do you find joy in a slower life? I'll ring a chime to begin and to end. Please share with one another for a minute or so.
The folk singer Allie Halpert wrote this chant, which has been in the Unitarian Universalist worship waters throughout the pandemic. It is something to hold on to. I'll say the words to you because our masks may obscure them. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? As the choir sings this chant this morning, I invite you to settle in. Close your eyes, if you like, and breathe. Maybe sway with us a little as we sing, Loosen, Loosen. Loosen, loosen, baby, you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby, you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. And you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Your pain and sorrow has grown. Loosen, loosen, baby. And you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Your pain and sorrow has grown. Loosen, loosen, baby. And you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Your pain and sorrow has grown. Let go, let go, let go. Let go, let go, let go. Let go, let
Thank you so much to the choir for that beautiful anthem. I suspect many of us will be singing that to ourselves a time or two this coming week. Thank you for the lovely gift. We come to a thoughtful, prayerful time in our service, a time in which we think of those to whom we're connected, to those who are experiencing a great joy or a deep sorrow. In a moment or two, you'll have the opportunity to say those names into this space, or if you're joining us for the live feed, to put them into the chat or simply say them at home, knowing that we are all connected and that the names are in fact heard and absorbed by us and held by us. On the pastoral list, we have a great joy this morning. Peter and Marilyn L. are celebrating the marriage of Nicholas and Jessica in Avon, Colorado. They were married on Saturday, October 9th, and we just celebrate with Peter and Marilyn. We are grateful that you had a good trip there and that family could join, and we wish the new couple every blessing in their new married life together. Who is on your mind? Please speak the names of those that you are holding this morning. And I invite us to hum along as Doug Hardy's sings Spirit of Life, and to do the same when we close this time of prayer and meditation with Find a Stillness. Please hum along with Doug. I invite us to enter into this meditation by Thich Nhat Hanh, the great Buddhist teacher from Vietnam. I invite you to place your feet on the floor, to sit up a little bit taller, and let your hands rest naturally in your lap. Either close your eyes or just let your gaze soften as we hear these words from Thich Nhat Hanh. Let us be at peace with our bodies and our minds. Let us return to ourselves and become holy ourselves. Let us be aware of the source of being common to us all and to all living things. Evoking the presence of the great compassion, let us fill our hearts with our own compassion toward ourselves and toward all living beings. Let us pray that we ourselves cease to be the cause of suffering to each other. With humility, with awareness of the existence of life and of the suffering that is going on around us, let us practice the establishment of peace in our hearts and on earth. Amen. Let us hold a time of silence together.
silence carry me in the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
At this time, I would like to invite Cece King to come forward to light the social action candle. Come on up, Cece.
So this is the first time I have chosen to come to the sanctuary since we started being able to do so. And I just want to say that it's touching me in sort of unexpectedly deep ways. So I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to try to be really short, about UTech again, which Sue Gladstone introduced to some of you a couple of weeks ago. And given what Howard was saying earlier about, being consumed by our culture of access and all these choices we have, the young men and women with UTech are consumed by cultures of poverty and violence. And UTech intervenes with these guys between the ages of 17 and 25 to give them really solid skills for life. So just very briefly, a snapshot of Felix. At the age when my sons were probably either doing improv club in high school or going off to their first year of college, Felix was in jail. And he was the fortunate recipient of a street worker outreach from UTech. One of the things they do so beautifully is they reach out and they reach out and they reach out on the street in prison until that young person is ready to come in. And Felix knew right away that he wanted to come in. And he did. He started attending UTech when he got out of prison, but he was cautious and careful. He didn't ask for help. He bottled up stuff. And for a while he struggled until, for whatever reason, maybe it was just the persistence of the program, he decided to reinvest and go deeper with his mental health worker. And today he is working on his GED. He is active in the culinary program and intends to become a chef. He says, "I'm not afraid to ask for help anymore. I've gotten more comfortable trying new things. I'm more social, more talkative. I've learned a lot about public speaking." And he just had a daughter. And another thing UTech does is relate seriously and honestly with where these kids are. So in a lot of programs, if you have a kid, it's hard to go, but UTech has a certified child care center. So Felix's daughter can be there, and he can be the example for her that he wants to be. So he says, "I'm really proud of everything I've overcome, and I'm excited for my future." So I hope you'll join us in making that choice, as Howard said, to give, to extend to a really solid program that's reaching out and changing lives and communities. UTech will be out at coffee hour with more information.
Thank you, Cece. The whole month long, we are sharing our offering plate with UTech, so anything that you text or anything that you put in the plate beyond your pledge goes 50% to them and 50% to the church. It's easy to text to the plate. There's a number that's in your order of service, or it will appear for the folks watching online, or even later on YouTube. We don't care when the money comes in. You can text any old time. If you have brought cash or a check today, there will be an usher at the back to receive those with an offering plate. So please give to the good work of UTech and First Parish in Concord. come outside for coffee hour. We're mixing it up a little bit today. It is a gorgeous day, and so we're having coffee hour set up down in the herb garden. And you can find that just by going out this door and down the steps, or if steps are not going to work for you or just want a different route, go out the main doors and come clear around the building this way, and that will take you down to the herb garden as well. Please come and enjoy one another's company. Bruce has set up coffee hour down there. Come and see the garden in autumn. There's a certain beauty of a garden in its last days before a hard frost. So please come down and join us there. There is a welcome table there hosted by someone from the Congregational Life Committee. They'd be happy to talk to you about membership, or if you're new to the church, answer any questions that you might have. There's also a table down there with cards and the pastoral care list. I think that's all we need to say for this morning. Our closing hymn, we're going to stand and sing together. It's in the gray hymnal. It's number 11, O God of Stars and Sunlight. Please turn to number 11 in the hymnal, stand as you are able, and we'll sing together our closing hymn. Be not afraid. Live your life in a way that is not fearful, that is not small, that is not consumed with what you will eat and what you will drink, where you will go and what you will wear. Be not afraid, because when you are not afraid, you will see around you all of those other people who are not afraid either, and who are there to do what all of us wish, which is simply to make this world a better place. Be not afraid, I tell you. Live your life well. Please join in the first parish benediction saying, "Go out into the world in peace, have courage, hold on to what is good, Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. Please come out to coffee hour.